Hey, today we're talking about professional nanny qualities and just qualities as a whole that businesses and organizations look for when they are looking to hire a person. We've got our friend and special guest Greer, who has worked in and out of the nanny industry, but in the staffing industry as a whole is where she's kind of planted her roots. And she has a degree in business administration. And again, experience with staffing, both in and out of the nanny industry. So she's come to share her opinions and input and experiences helping individuals find employment, as well as connecting agencies and organizations and finding employees.
Okay, so I guess, should we start with talking about like more nanny specific, or should we talk about just like in general first?
Well, you're a nanny industry agency, so let's focus on the nannies first.
Okay, so I think one of the biggest things that we kind of deal with is getting, applications in from different candidates or people calling in, and so we want to kind of start from the beginning and what we look for, at that first kind of contact. So, like for me, I know if I get an email from someone that is interested in a nanny position, the first thing I look at is their email address. We've had quite a few that are not necessarily appropriate for a professional setting, whether it's like, sexy gals 75 or, baby girls with like 5 Z's. We all have those emails. I still have mine from middle school. It's like Pinkaholic something, but I don't use that for professional things. So I think that's kind of the first thing that kind of puts me, kind of off on that first impression, is if there's kind of a silly email address that goes with it. So that's something, make yourself a professional email account. It's free. Anyone can do it. And that's, going to at least get you taken a little bit seriously right off the bat. What about like resumes? Like what do we...
Well, and I would even go back to emailing for a second and just remember you are trying to correspond with a prospective employer. So grammar and spelling and, all of that good stuff needs to kind of be proofread before you send it. You're not emailing or, we text a lot, so we still have those kind of, shortening our words and things like that when we're writing out emails. But just remember to take a few minutes, go back, spell everything out, make sure it's grammatically correct because, these aren't friends, that we're corresponding with. It's a job and professional employers.
Yeah, and I think... Oh.
No, you're fine. Just to add on both to what you're both saying, also be aware of who you're trying to get in touch with. Be aware of who you're talking to. Do a little bit of research beforehand and see who that hiring manager is, because that's really going to help you set the tone of that email. And then also kind of tagging into Leanna, first name dot last name at blank.com. If your first name's very generic, your last name's very generic, add a few numbers in there, but that's going to go a long way in using that email for your professional correspondence.
Yeah, and talking about too, like who you're emailing, I cannot tell you how annoyed I get when somebody emails me and is like, "Hi, Leanne," or "Hi, Shanika," and we're like, obviously that's not our name. Like it's all over our website. It's all over our company information. It's on my email signature. So make sure you spell their name correctly. Double check that, you're addressing them as the right person. If their name's Tracy, is it Tracie or EY or just Y? Like, look at that stuff, because once again, if you email me and you're like, "Hi, Laura," or "Hi, Leanne," I'm like, that's not my name, so I'm not really...
And if you don't know, just go with a very generic good afternoon, good morning, good evening.
Yeah.
Don't say howdy. Don't try to be cute with, hola or greetings. Just make it very generic and very professional.
Yeah. And kind of skipping ahead, I know we're talking about emailing, but just the greeting again, if you are calling in or, you may have seen Leanna's name on the website and you're calling to get some more information. You're not sure if it's Leanne, Leanna, whatever, don't be afraid to say, "I'm sorry, how do you pronounce your name again? Or am I pronouncing that correctly?" That goes, a much farther way than pronouncing it correctly. So I much rather you ask. My name too, people have a hard time spelling it and saying it. I'm not offended by you asking me how to appropriately pronounce my name. So
yeah. And so I think that kind of leads into like your resumes too, and like your name, and making sure that your resume is in the correct format. It has all of your information. So you may be able to answer this better, like what should be on the resume just in terms of like general things.
Well, just, you know, kind of speaking from experience, Google is your best friend when it comes to how to write a resume, how to do a resume. There are tons, thousands and thousands of correct ways to do a resume. Find the one that works best for you. That is the best format for how you feel, and especially the industry that or job that you're trying to get into, and stick with it. You know, have that same format throughout, and make sure that you are correctly advocating for yourself to get that specific job. So, you know, your resume should be formatted with your name and contact information at the top, because people, once they see your resume, they need to be able to get in touch with you. So phone, best email, again, making sure that that's that professional email on there, and not, you know, Pink Poppins at, you know, whatever.com. So making sure that that's on there. The best number to reach you at is really important. You know, if it's your parents' house number, that's probably not the best number to put on your resume, because you don't want mom and dad answering the phone when your prospective employer calls. And then you also should have, now a lot of people will go back and forth with this, you know, objective or not objective. If you have an objective on there, make sure you're changing that objective to every job that you're applying to. Or, you know, you can just not have an objective listed at the top of your resume. And then, you know, going down kind of in order, your most recent employment should be listed first, followed by your title at that current position, and then in bullet points as briefly but yet in depth. I know that's kind of an oxymoron, but, you know, you need to be able to, brief but thorough, and using those buzzwords, you know, correctly to make sure that the point is across of what you did at that company and your responsibilities and things like that. Some other little tips and tricks to kind of think about. No one in the professional world really cares if you are magna cum laude or that you were in the beta club in 8th grade. There's certain things that after a certain period of time, you know, you just need to leave off your resume. You know, black belt in Taekwondo, like, unless you're trying to work at a dojo, is probably not correlating to, you know, the job that you're trying to get in the professional world.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because, like, if I'm applying for a nanny position, excuse me, some of my special skills that I put on my resume are going to be different than if I'm applying to a waitressing job or an administrative, or, like, you know, my degree's in theater, so when I'm applying for, you know, roles or whatever, I put that I can juggle, I put that I can do a British accent, but, like, if somebody put that on their nanny, you know, application, I'd be like, okay.
I've heard the British accent.
Congratulations.
Like, superb. So it comes out every now and again when she's on the phone.
So you just have to make sure that those skills that you're putting on there apply to the job, you know, that you're applying for. Mm-hmm. And I think that goes for experience, too. You know, we get resumes all the time, and they may be a great nanny, and then they send their resume in, and it's got, like, you know, they worked at Wendy's, and they worked at this clothing store, and they worked at this, you know, restaurant, and that's it. And I'm like, what childcare experience do you have? A lot of people may not include their nanny experience on, like, a traditional resume, but if you are applying specifically to, you know, a nanny agency or a family, like, on your own, you do want to put, you know, each family you've worked for separately. Don't just put childcare experience in general for the last 5 years. They want to know what ages you've worked with and what duties you did there and how long you were with them and things like that. So making sure that you are tailoring that resume to each individual, you know, place that you're applying.
Yeah. And then to kind of go into what you guys said, so when I was working within the nanny industry and I got a resume, and it did include, you know, because sometimes people, you know, just have that babysitting, you know, your family friend or, you know, X, Y, and Z. You know, when you got those resumes that had Wendy's and a clothing store and things like that, tailoring that to the job that you're trying to get, there are ways that you can, word things. It's not stalking the back room. It's using using my training. I was able to follow directions and complete my necessary assigned tasks. Mm-hmm. And, that kind of then ties into that you are good at following directions, that you, work well as a team, and that you can get done what needs to get done. So that's what that is saying to me, rather than stocked the back room full of French fries.
Yeah. And so say you get 2 candidates for a job and their resumes are almost identical. They've both been full-time nannies, both have daycare experience, both have been doing this for 10 plus years. At that point, what makes one stand out more than the other? So either of you, I guess, can answer that.
Yeah. For me, I would say it's definitely going to be that formatting, that's making sure that it is professional, that everything that's on there is relevant to what they're trying to obtain as far as employment, and that they, are both eloquently and being thorough and detailed in the duties that they were doing for the families or daycares.
Yeah, and for me, I think the interview process, gives me a chance to kind of take that extra step. Here at Nanny by Design, we like to do, group interviews. So we have, maybe 3 to 6 candidates, in a room at a time when we're doing the Q&A. So definitely, someone's confidence, having personality, but not too much where it's a turn off, where you're too relaxed or, too confident or comfortable. It's still, again, a professional setting. And, just having thoughtful answers and not just, the typical, I love children, or, kids love me, or, I really want to see that you take this seriously and, your experiences have taught you a lot, and you're able to then, articulate that. And we don't expect you to be perfect. We just want to see that, you've learned and you've grown, and, your experiences have given you some education.
Or my favorite, that I go along with what she said. Don't ever do that. Have your own opinion, even if you say almost the exact same thing.
Twist
give it
it
that little twist.
Yeah.
Never. I totally agree with what she says. That's my answer too.
Or even if you build on it, you can say, oh yeah, I feel the same way, and also add on to it, so that we know that you at least have that knowledge and you can add on to ideas, and you're not just ditto, I don't know anything, I'm just gonna say what everybody else says,
because that doesn't tell us anything about you, and again, your experiences and what you've been through. So yeah,
and you want to stand out too. You want to stand out to that employer that you're talking to, and in a group interview situation, which a lot of companies do, it's a lot harder. You have to work a lot harder to make
assertive.
Have that. Oh, I remember her, or I remember him, and he was really great, and she was really great, and she said this, or he said that. So you really want to make sure that you are stating your opinion and making yourself known. Because that's a lot harder to do in a group setting versus an individual setting. But even so, individual employers might have 4, 5, 6 interviewees over the course of a couple of weeks, and you have to make sure that you're standing out in those situations.
Yeah, and I think too, something for me that really stands out in our group interviews is after I've asked all the questions and I say, now does anybody have any questions for me about anything? Find one. Before you come, do research on the company or the nanny world or the restaurant world or wherever you're applying, and have relevant questions. I think my favorite one I got was the last one we had, and she was like, well, what's your favorite thing about your company? And I was like, well, and it made me think, and obviously it shows that she cares about my investment in this company as well. And so I think it's important to always have a question. And I feel like I learned that in some kind of interview, something in college, but you should have some follow-up questions, even if, you prepare them ahead of time and you have 5 to choose from and they answer some of them along the way. You still have some that you can ask that are relevant and that show that you're trying to be invested and that kind of thing. Because that shows, true interest, I think, in the company. and that you're not just like, no, like, I don't have any, I'm done. You know, it shows maturity too, I think.
Well, and also, let's be honest, I mean, people buy from people that they like. People hire people that they like. You know, creating that human interaction relationship, that is like our basic nature, is we want to work with people that we like, that we enjoy, that we can talk to, that we can have a conversation with. So making sure that you have those questions, like, well, how did you, you know, get to this company? Like, where's your background? Where did you come from? Or, you know, why should I want to work here? You know, people eat that stuff up, and it really, you know, kind of throws people off their feet for a moment, where they have to think about it, but then they're like, oh, that was a really great question. Like, they're going to want to interact with you further, which can really increase your chances of getting, you know, that job that you're really looking for.
Mm-hmm. I think another thing which we deal with a lot is people that, so it's a good and a bad thing. So you're taught kind of when you're growing up and you're learning about applying for jobs that you should call and check on the status of your application, which is great. Maybe once. We get so like turned off by applicants that call 3 times in a row and don't leave a voicemail, or call every day for a week. What's the status? What's the status? What's the status? So you can do that too much. After you submit your application, you know, and you want to make sure that they got it or that it was received, feel free to call and say, hey, I just applied. I wanted to be sure it went through, something like that.
And I think especially for us specifically, we truly, truly are a small business. It's just Leanna and myself working in, you know, operating our business. So we don't have a huge office staff with maybe 3 or 4 people in an HR department. And, you know, so we know who we've come across. We know the resumes we've seen, the people we've talked to, you know, who was at the interviews. And yeah, and then so we also have, you know, 50 plus of our own employees to deal with. Again, it just being, you know, the 2 of us. So we don't, you know, always have as quick of a turnaround as we would like. But, you know, like I said, we know everything that's come across our desk. So like she said, call, leave a message. Don't just call back to back to back to back, because you don't know if we're in a meeting or, you know, anything like that. So leave us a voicemail and let us, you know, have the opportunity to respond to you. I mean, even with the 2 of us, I have to brag on ourselves. We, you know, pretty much respond within 24, 48 hours. So we're really on top of it. We don't let those things, you know, build up, because that's just stressful for us. But I'm sure from an applicant's point of view, we're not responding as quickly, you know, as you would like. But yeah, maybe, you know, once, maybe follow up with an email like Greer said, you know, in a week or so. I'm sure somewhere in between that time you would have heard from one of us. So that's for us specifically. You know, I know some organizations are different and they're bigger and they can handle that volume, but we truly are a small business. So like Leanna said, it's kind of like a, like.
And I mentioned email because that's a lot of businesses. You know, obviously, it's, again, make sure you're catering to the business that you are interested in being a part of. But that's usually really much quicker for a lot of hiring managers to, you know, shoot back a quick email like, I'll get back to you, or, you know, still in X amount of stages or whatever the case may be, rather than taking a phone call during their busy day to tell you the same thing that they could quit back in, you know, 2 minutes or 2 seconds. So, you know, that's why I typically, you know, when I'm looking at getting a position, I will email first, give them some time to respond back. You know, 48, 72 hours is not abnormal. And, you know, if that doesn't work, then, you know, then moving on to that next step of I'm going to give a call and I'm going to leave a message. And again, 72 hours after that is not abnormal to wait. I know we're in sort of a time where we don't like to wait, but making sure that you're patient, because that is another quality that shines through, that you're able to be patient and let the process work that, you know, the process has been designed to do.
Yeah. And again, remember, it's a professional setting. I know, again, like in this day of age, we've got our cell phones and, you know, caller ID and all that, but in the business world, if you don't leave a message, we're not just going to go through our caller ID and return a number that called. Whereas, you know, on a personal cell, when you see your friend call, like I don't leave voicemails for my friends and they always call me back, but you know that person, right? So we're not going to see that we missed a phone call while we were at, a meeting and then just call that number back. So leaving a message, I think, is really, really the key if you want, some sort of response.
And again, with making sure that whatever message it is a professional one, whether that be email, going back to everything that we talked about, and then voicemails as well, making sure that you're stating your name and the best number to reach you back at, and, leaving a brief message of why you were calling, ending with a very pleasant, thank you so much, hope you have a great day, hope you have a great evening, hope to hear from you soon, and then waiting.
Yeah. And I think too, like, a thank you email goes a long way. Like, after you've had an interview, just
oh yeah, you like those.
I do, because it's not normal.
Yeah.
And like,
no,
especially we work with a lot of, I think, younger professionals. I don't know. So it just shows me, like, almost that you're a mature kind of old soul, because, a lot of times you hear nothing after an interview. And so somebody's sending me an email and being like, hey, thank you so much for taking the time with, to meet with me. I really hope I get the job, but, if not, I understand. Have a great day, or whatever. It just shows that you, once again, that you're
standing
invested. Yeah. And that you care about this position, and it's not just like another job on your line of things that you're applying for. As a business owner, particularly, whether it's, nanny related or not, we just want to know that you're invested in the company too, and that this isn't just a way to make money for you and to pay your bills. Like, yes, we all have bills. We all have to pay them. We all have lives. Like, we know that, but like, you still have to show that you're genuinely interested in that specific company and that specific job. Like, and that you're going to be a good, valuable employee and passionate about what you're doing.
Yeah. And it goes beyond, it just shows that you know how to interact with people, you know how to communicate, you know how to, be polite, and just kind of basic, daily.
Well, just basic qualities. So talking about that, like, let's talk about some qualities that we kind of look for in candidates that can relate probably to the nanny industry or not, just, in general characteristics that we look for in applicants.
Mm-hmm.
I like confidence. Mm-hmm. Confidence speaks volumes to me. People that are confident in themselves typically can tell you why they feel that way, and they have a formulated opinion. And usually with that confidence comes, their abilities to research the company, make sure that they have all those boxes checked off. So I really like confidence in candidates.
Mm-hmm. My top one would probably be punctuality. Mm-hmm. So being 10 minutes early.
Mm-hmm.
But so also too punctual can be a turn off. Sometimes
there's always downfalls to all of these qualities. We
have to do our interviews at a different location, and which is great. And if you are like super punctual, maybe just wait in the car, and just sometimes people even beat us there, which is phenomenal. But we're trying to get in and get set up, and they're already like coming in, and we're like, oh, and we're flustered. So give us a second, just kind of let us get in and get things set up.
I always say, like,
for
5
you,
to 10 minutes
it's
early.
Perfect.
Like, if you're supposed to be somewhere at 10, don't walk in the door at 9:40, because that person's not expecting you till 10. Right. I've had that, I think, when we used to do one-on-one interviews. I would kind of schedule them back-to-back, and then somebody comes 30 minutes early, and I'm like, no, like, I can't talk to you right now. I have this. So, especially, it's a respect thing, too, I think, for someone's time. Like, you don't want to show up too early. So I always say, like, 5 to 10 minutes is pretty good. And like she's saying, if you want to make sure you're there on time and drive early and make sure you find where you're going, that's great. Play Candy Crush in your car for 10 minutes until it's time to go in.
Or prepare those questions that you...
That might be better.
I was like, gosh, you love some
Can
Candy
you see
Crush.
the polar opposites here?
And I think my quality that I kind of look for is... really, I mean, for me, it's more like a personality thing, like charisma. Like, if you have inflection in your voice and you're kind of animated and you're passionate about what you're talking about, to me, that goes a long way, especially because in my specific industry, when you're working with kids, you can't be monotoned. You can't be, like, passive and, like, let them walk all over you. You have to, like, have some personality in order to engage with them, and in order to engage with the parents too. This job is specific to the fact that you have to be able to talk and understand a 4-year-old and a 44-year-old. Mm-hmm. So it's having that personality and confidence too to kind of talk to both of them and be able to get your point across, you know, in the way that's appropriate for those two different ages. We always kind of say skills can be taught, but personality cannot. So if you come in and you're just very dry and monotone and you don't smile, but you have 25 years of childcare experience, I'm going to go every time with the person that has 3 years of childcare experience, maybe no infant experience, but I can teach them that, versus somebody that I can't teach you how to engage with people and have a personality and come off, you know, kind of bubbly and exude that, you know, kind of personality that people want to be around.
Yeah. Or they would, a lot of times we put those individuals, you know, because there is value in the experience as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
But so they'll go in like a group care setting where there's, you know, others, you know, there. But like she said, specifically working like one-on-one in the home, you know, personality is very important. And, you know, you have to get through our interview and then our nannies interview with the families too. So again, then at that point you may be up against 3 or 5 candidates, and personality probably is gonna, you know, win the families over every time as well.
Yeah. And we're going to talk later in a different video about, like, specifically about interview tips. But I think when you are meeting with families, some of the qualities that I think we hear the most that they're looking for are punctual, for sure. Somebody that's going to be on time. Somebody that's going to be dependable. That's going to exert all their options. No, like, use all their options before they call out. Like, rain or shine, snow or no snow, flat tire or not, they're going to be at work. They're going to figure it out. They're going to find a way to get there. So dependability is really important. Responsible and nurturing, engaging.
And again, professional. Like, there's this fine line, right, working in the home and in domestic employment, but we just had someone go on an interview, and the feedback that we got was, again, the girl was too confident or too relaxed. And so the mother said, what, bye, or, you know, something. And she's like, see ya, or later it was. No, you know, you still got to be professional. Yeah. Again, knowing how to communicate with those adults, having the personality, you know, to say, you know, bye, we want you to be authentic, but, you know, again, remembering you're still in a professional setting.
Yeah. And I think being educated too, not necessarily that you have to go to college, but being CPR and first aid certified, taking a SID certification, always, you know, attending International Nanny Training Day, doing things like those are things in this specific industry that are going to set you apart from other candidates in this industry. You know, you're always wanting to further your education, and there's so many resources now. You can take classes at community colleges. You can, you know, check out any nanny board on Facebook, and they have all sorts of trainings and things like that you can participate in. So, you know, it's not necessarily like having a degree that's relevant, but you can always further your education outside of that by, you know, doing different trainings and attending seminars and just doing different things like that.
Yeah, I think overall as a whole, as we're kind of like coming to a close, to sum it all up, we love candidates that treat this as a career. And I think you kind of touched on it before, not just a job that I'm going through the list, applying everywhere, and whoever calls, you know, and offers me the job, I'm going to take it because I have bills to pay. You know, we want someone that this is, you know, a passion of theirs, a career, whether it be for 20 years or, you know, 5 years or even 1 year as I'm, you know, building the blocks to get to my dream career. You still treat this as, again, professional, and that you're invested in your growth and learning, and like she said, education, not necessarily in the traditional sense of going to college, but just soaking in anything that you can to help you, you know, be better.
Let's sum it up by saying, like, each one of us, what, like, feedback we've gotten that makes, like, a rock star employee or a rock star candidate.
Feedback that we've gotten from, like
from a client or, you know, or if you've ever worked somewhere else, like, just like a stellar candidate and, like, why they were.
I would say, as probably contradictory as it is, a lot of times, and I caution to even say this, because you still have to be great with the kids, but you don't even necessarily have to be, you know, the best nanny or babysitter in the world, but parents love, again, going the extra mile. So picking up the toys, you know, finishing the dinner dishes, cleaning those, putting them away, wiping the counters, sweeping. Me personally, that's some of the best feedback I get is they're like, oh my God, I'm like, I don't even really do anything. I'm like, they, not to, toot my own horn, but think I'm so great. And I'm like, I didn't really do anything, This is just what I would do if I was at home or whatever.
Yeah.
So just going that extra mile, will really set you apart, and those make for great qualities as well.
Mm-hmm.
Being willing to just get in there and help make the family's lives easier, whether you helped make the mess with the kids or not, just get in there, roll your sleeves up, and, make it better for them.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, like, the feedback I probably hear the most is communicating with the parents, like, at the end of the day. Like, there's a difference between someone that when the parent walks through the door, they're like, okay, bye, out the door, they're done, they're off the clock, versus the nanny that's like, oh my gosh, we had a great day, like, we, played Legos, we did this, like, she practiced her handwriting, just kind of taking those 5 minutes. Don't stay there an extra, like, hour, obviously, like, they want to go to bed or do whatever when they're getting home, so not overstaying, but give them some kind of feedback about, what you did or how cute their kid is, something that's going to give them those kind of warm and fuzzies that are going to say, I want her to come back. Like, obviously my kids had fun. She was able to articulate to me what they did.
She was excited about, what they did.
And I think that goes back to kind of the passion. Like, that's probably actually my number one that I look for, is somebody that's not like, oh, I'm working with kids because I am good at it. Like, no, I want you to say, I love working with kids. It makes me happy. I wake up every day excited to go to work. Like, that kind of love for this industry is what I look for. Anybody can go to work, punch a clock, and go home. So it's more about, like, your love and your passion and your dedication to that specific, industry.
Yeah. And I would definitely say, word of the day being professional.
Hashtag professional.
Yeah, hashtag. So that's definitely my biggest thing that I look for, not only when, I dabbled in the nanny industry, but also now in the staffing industry in general. Just making sure that candidates are professional, that they are, ready to go into any situation with the correct information, and that they're going to be a great representation of, the company. And then hopefully, everything works out and, we can make them, change their life and give them a job. So
awesome. All right.
Anything else?
Thanks for tuning in with us. Hope this was helpful, that you enjoyed it, and that you'll come back to our next video.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Yes.
Comment any suggestions, questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, so we know what y'all want to hear.
Yeah, and follow us on our social media. We have Instagram, Facebook, right?
Pinterest, Twitter.
all of it.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.